Hey folks, welcome to So-Called Normal. My name is Mark Hennick. Today on the show, we have comedian, author, mental health advocate, and all-around really beautiful person, Jessica Holmes. You might have seen her on Royal Canadian Air Farce or read her book, Depression, the Comedy. If you haven't done either of those things yet, go do both right now. Well, don't stop doing this. Keep listening to this, but after you're done listening to this, go do that. Last week in Canada was National Mental Health Week. This week in the United States and in the UK, it's Mental Health Week there. And this whole month, actually, is Mental Health Awareness Month. So it was really important for me to have Jessica in particular on the show because she's a fellow public speaker. She's a comedian. She's, done comedy in the clubs, but especially corporate comedy, and which is a very different kind of thing in public speaking. So we had that in common, and we chatted quite a bit about that and her experience with depression and how open she has been about that. And I really love talking to comedians in particular, and I'm going to have some more on the show because I myself use humor as just a way to manage to get through these types of things. You have to find the humor in it, right? And I think that that's pretty common. When I talk to comedians, I hear that almost all of them have a mental health journey of some kind or another. So I think you're really going to find this interesting, especially for this very special mental health, one of our very special Mental Health Month episodes, Mental Health Week in the UK and the US, as I mentioned, and last week in Canada. So here's my conversation with Jessica Holmes on So-Called Normal.
I'm Jessica Holmes. I am a comedian and an author and a mental health advocate.
What does that mean, mental health advocate?
Mental health advocate means I'm not quite an expert, but I am someone who has experienced mental health issues in the past and just decided that for my career to feel like it has any meaning and to sort of give meaning to the suffering that I went through, I just want to give it away now. I just want to get on stage and tell everyone just there shouldn't be any stigma around mental health issues. Taking care of our mental health should be no different from brushing your teeth and putting on deodorant and chatting about it as easily as that. Yeah.
So you just gave a really nice, tight summary of what I think our entire conversation is probably going to be about. So,
excellent.
So let's unpack this.
I started with dessert.
Yeah, no. Hey, that's great. I love to start with dessert. Let's unpack this more. So, what have you struggled with? Well, you talk about your own mental health. Do you have a diagnosis of some kind?
Yes. So after my kids were born, we had Irish twins, which is when you have two babies back to back, and.
So I was raised Irish Catholic, so I know
exactly
what you mean.
They're having a lot of babies in a minimum number of years.
Yeah, my mother's one of 16.
Holy cow. Do you know all your aunts and uncles' names?
I could if I listed them, but I've been meaning to try to rattle them off. That would be funny. Yeah.
Do you know what we do in our houses? We have a family tree with photos on the wall because otherwise we can't. We're Irish as well, and we just don't know all the names. Yeah, no,
I'd need a bigger wall, I think.
I know.
In a condo, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my apologies. So you were saying.
Yeah, so
Irish twins.
After when my second child was 4 months old, I just felt paralyzed with anxiety and got a diagnosis of postpartum depression. And then I figured I got better and said, well, I'm not having any more babies, so take that, depression. No more depression ever. And maybe 4 years later, it crept up on me, but it was a different type of depression. It wasn't – the anxiety that I felt was sort of on the self-loathing side, but more than that, I just couldn't see any reason for anything.
Right.
Like I sucked it up when my kids came home every day and put my best foot forward, and if someone – hired me to come out and speak at something, I would suck it up for that hour and be a really good actor and bring it on. But if it wasn't one of those two moments, I had nothing. And I felt like the world had nothing for me, which is terrible because in my heart, my personality is full of gratitude. I'm an optimist and a really grateful person. And I count my blessings a lot, but I just couldn't feel it.
Right.
And later, once I got diagnosed, I asked my psychiatrist, why the disconnect? And she said, a depressed mind is like a sieve, and only the negatives make it through the holes.
Right.
And the positives are trapped up there. And that has been the best for me in explaining it to people particularly people who are close to me, who I felt couldn't find the sympathy for me, because on paper, my life looks so good. If you have life way easier than me, your life looks better than mine. Why on earth are you crumpled up on the sofa for a year? Are you just not being grateful? And so my message when I get on stage is it's not an attitude problem. It's a mental illness.
Well, being depressed when your life is shitty is understandable.
Yes, I know.
But being depressed when your life is good, that's what depression is, right? It's that disconnect.
Exactly. That's the exact diagnosis of it. If things are going right and you still can't find a sense of happiness or calm, then something's going wrong.
So prior to the postpartum episode, if you want to call it that, because it sounds like it was fairly focused around that time. Had you any prior history of mental illnesses, of depression, anxiety, anything like that?
Nothing that I got diagnosed for, but I will say when I entered the comedy world, I suddenly went from being someone who was constantly engaged with, I think I'm a person who has a really busy mind, as many comedians do. But I always was a busy mind with lots to fill it. Like I served a mission with my church. I would go to university. I filled my time with a lot of knowledge and stuff. And then when I joined the comedy world, I started working at Second City in the touring company, which means you're only guaranteed a show every Sunday night, but you have to leave all the other days free in case a gig opens up or in case someone needs an understudy. Right. So suddenly I was kind of trapped at home, and my sense of humor, which had always been kind of my invisible best friend, was now my source of income. Right. And so I went through this change where I was suddenly feeling a little lost in myself. But at that point in time, I just kept thinking, I just have to push through this. I just have to push through this. This is, I guess, just what it is to be an artist. Right. And when I recovered from depression this last time, I said to my psychiatrist, I don't think this is the right business for me to be in. And she said, well, what if instead of changing careers 20 years in, what if we could find ways of supporting you in this career that would help you still be mentally stable? And so that's what we've done, and that's how I've lived every single day for the last 4 years. So and
I've been trying to get a comedian on the show for a while now because I find it absolutely fascinating. I haven't met or enjoyed a comedian who doesn't have some sort of connection with a mental health problem or illness. Is it part of the job?
I think it might be. I actually interviewed the late Mike MacDonald for my book because I didn't just want it to be my opinion that yes, comedy is hard and can contribute to mental health issues. So I asked him, what is it? And we were like, what comes first, the comedy or the depression? And he said it's a bit of both. He said, we're all very introspective people who look for the holes in life, and that's where we want to find humor from. So we're thinking a lot. We don't do great with downtime because our minds are busy. And then we have this lifestyle where you feel like a rock star for 3 or 4 days, and then no one hires you for 2 months. Right. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not always about what's fair or not. It's an industry with too few jobs for too many people. So when you put those two things together with someone like me who maybe is a little predisposed, is a little more sensitive, or finds it hard to be a self-starter in some ways, then for me it wasn't working. And if I hadn't found a good psychiatrist to sort of help me figure out how to reconcile the two, I'd have opened a bakery at this point. All gluten all the time. Yeah.
So do you think, though, that what Mike MacDonald mentioned around drawing on the emotion, I guess, as a source for the comedy maybe, or as a way to ignore all the stuff in your life, or as an outlet or whatever it is, can you still be funny without tapping into that stuff? Is there a different way to be funny?
Oh, there is the Ellen DeGeneres school of being funny, where she's an incredibly positive person. I don't think someone needs to suffer to be comedic. I think it's that people who are really introspective, who internalize everything that happens around them, are naturally funny people because they, you're always looking to say, okay, what just happened plus my comedic spin equals making people laugh and making people feel good. So I can't, there's so many different types of comedians now that I couldn't possibly speak to what, like to a generalization, except to say there are more cases of depression among artists than the general population.
So then it's probably, it seems, because of that creative mind, that inability. Maybe I don't like the word inability, but that that you're not in the habit of keeping your thoughts super organized, super together, so they can go spin off.
And our quote talent is that whatever's in our heart comes out.
Right.
So it's for me to be a good comedian and to have the respect of my peers. What I try to do in my craft, I feel like a total cheeseball calling it that, but
no, that's great.
What I try and do is not edit myself at all. I try and just feel what the world gives me and then turn that into something and put it back out there.
Right.
And when I do that, you're taking in maybe more that people with a day job at a bank might just say, "Oh, I just don't let those thoughts come in," or I just don't I don't take 2 hours to indulge on why no one on the block likes me. Whereas I would actually be like, hey,
nice.
why does no one on the block like me? Hey, I'm going to sit and think about it for like 3 hours and then I'm going to write a comedy bit about it.
And then you have to move and then you have to
I know, it's awkward. So I think we're people whose 90% of our job is just sitting around thinking, coming up with ideas and reading the paper and figuring out what does that mean and how can I make it funny. And another side of that job is if your job is to make people laugh, there's never really a finish line. So there's never, I've heard other comedians say this, there's never that sense of landing or of completion because every audience is different and you can get a standing ovation one night, do the exact same material the next night, and it's crickets out there.
I had this, I was just telling somebody about this the other day. Now, I'm not a comedian or anything like that, but I do tell people, I've been talking about suicide now, my own experiences for 10 years probably, and signed with an agency to do that start doing that about 5 years ago. And it was really hard to sell a talk about suicide because I'm like, no, trust me, we're going to make it light. We're going to make it funny. Like we're not going to make fun of it, but my way to get through my own story is to make fun of myself. And I'm funny in my head, but even if nobody else does. But I had this experience probably a year ago doing my mental health talk. I did it for one group. It killed, got the standing O. It was a big group. It was great. Did it a week later to almost the exact same type of group, same demographic, same everything. Nothing. And actually the organizer afterwards said that they didn't like it. They didn't like my story.
Oh my God. I don't care for your suicide story.
Basically, this is basically what it was. And telling me about how I should talk about my own story and instructing me and all this stuff.
Oh boy.
But the first one was great and they did great big feature about it and everything. And that was a really important learning moment for me because I was like, you know what? I just got to get up there and do my thing and give it my best.
And sometimes it's easier said than done because in comedy, your job is to be personal. Right. Your job is to really open up and be personal. So when someone says, well, don't take it personally, if that was a tough crowd, you go, but that's the core of who I am.
If they don't laugh, this is... And especially if it's not scripted, written, or super written comedy, I would imagine. If you're there sharing yourself, well, if they're not laughing, then maybe I'm, there's something to do with me.
Maybe I'm absolutely not likable and not talented.
Right.
And it's really weird because I've been doing this for 20 years and that thought will still pop in sometimes where I go, what am I doing here? Right. Who said I was a comedian? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's just a tough crowd and kind of like usually what I do after a show like that is I'll go home and I'll have a shower and I'll be like, there, it all goes down
just
the drain.
Just wash it off. Yeah.
Bad feelings gone.
That's a really good strategy. I should do that. So it sounds like though, this idea of going in there and sharing yourself and it sounds like it comes from that improv kind of core and you do a lot of and have done a lot of improv in your career.
Yeah. And I find having started at the Second City, what they respected was for people to be to take big chances, to be open and vulnerable on stage, and that's where the best comedy would come from. And then I go out into the stand-up comedy world where it's just about, did you get the laugh or did you not get the laugh? And so when I discovered the keynote world, which is just going from company to company and sharing my mental health story or sharing my comedic spin about life's lessons, for me, that was the perfect mix because I have to have the punchlines because I'm billed as a comedian, but the having those honest and vulnerable moments are very connective. I feel the connection with the audience. If I ever tried that in a stand-up club, forget it.
Right. Well, do you think I feel like it's a different standard in some ways. It's I don't know. I guess you do this that kind of show way more than I do. I don't do it, but is it easier to make a corporate audience laugh versus a comedy club who are going there to laugh? Funny person, make me laugh, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely easier with the corporate audience because the people who go to comedy clubs generally go to a lot of comedy clubs or listen to a lot of comedy, so they need to be surprised with originality. On top of it, you have to stand out from other people. Whereas I love when I get on stage with a corporate audience because I know we have an hour together.
Right.
So first we're going to warm each other up. We're going to get to know each other, and then we're going to get personal, and then we're going to get funny. And so I like that journey together because I don't feel like, okay, I have 8 minutes, and that means I have to right away just pack it all in, and it's just not really the right scene for me. I do comedy festivals the odd time where I will go perform with other comedians simply so that I can remember that I have a peer group.
Sure, yeah.
So that I don't feel like I'm always on an island.
Yeah. What is that peer group like, actually? I mean, the world of comedians. I listen to Mark Maron sometimes, or actually a lot, but that's the only insight into that I could get, and I'm not sure it's entirely representative.
And what is his take on it? Does he feel like?
Well, I mean, he seems he's certainly reflective about the struggles in the world. He seems to. I can't speak for him, obviously, but that there's lots of different camps within the comedy world, and I don't know what draws those lines. If it's a geography thing or a type of comedy thing, or it seems like women in comedy have a particularly tight bond. At least that's what it seems like as a white male from the outside.
Yeah. I always felt like a bit of an outsider because I always felt like I was the Pollyanna of the group. I was the goody two-shoes. I think they felt like I pulled a lot of punches and I got lucky very quickly in the industry.
But you worked your way up. So
I worked, but it's this thing where you're not supposed to look like you're ambitious. You're not supposed to.
That's such a Canadian
look like you're
thing,
trying real hard. Yeah.
So when Canadian stars get too big, we tear them down. It seems because I don't know. It's something about staying humble.
Yeah, I know another comedian who hired a publicist for a show that they were doing, and she said some of her peers turned on her because they were like, "Who do you think you are getting a publicist? Are you trying to jump the line? Are you trying to?" And she's like, "No, I just listened to some Tony Robbins and felt like it sounded like a good plan. I don't know."
Yeah.
And so that was the sense that I had as well. I always felt a little self-conscious. Sure. Also, I would be in the green room doing John Gray exercises of like, "Oh, glorious future, come unto me," while people are like, "Shut up! Do you care if I smoke in here?" Like I never felt like I was really part of the group. But and I spent many years away, but then when I started coming back to it in the last year or two, I really do feel that connect. And part of it is I'm going in thinking how grateful I am for their company because it helps me feel just a little more connected to a peer group. And I'm not as worried about like, who likes me or who's judging me right now.
Right. Well, you've kind of earned your cred by this point. I don't think you really have to.
Well, and whether I have or not, like I just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm a mom. I have deadlines. I have this and that. I don't have the same time to sit and reflect on whether I'm popular or not.
Right.
But I will say I thought that they were more bitter than they actually are.
Okay.
Like in my memory, I had sort of made it out to be this big, intimidating group. Sure. And then when I work with them again now, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all just trying to pay our bills here. We're all in the same boat to a bigger extent than I had realized before. So
that's a nice sense of community, I think. It sounds like, everybody wants to be welcomed into something, and I find in some ways the mental health community is kind of like that too. You bump into the same people all over the place who do this kind of work, and there is a sense you out of necessity you build a sense of community, I think.
Oh yeah, and what I love about the people in the mental health industry. So I was mentioning Louise Bradley earlier, who is high up there, and anytime that I've had the privilege of working with her, at some point she always turns to me and goes, "And how are you doing?" And I'm always like, "See, I love that. I don't get
no
that
comedian
in any
has
other...
asked you that in the
No.
green room of a dirty comedy club.
And when I work for a bank, no one asks me that. And, when I'm at the dog park, no one asks me that. No, but it's really, I love, I guess because I consider someone who is so often on the receiving end of people with helping out with mental health issues. I'm amazed that there's a group of people who are the givers.
Right.
Like I feel like I've been the taker, and I'm amazed that there's people who have the patience to listen for hours and to be on the other end of the call lines. And for me, I was at a place for a long time where I felt like if anyone shared their experience with me, I was like, "I'm so sorry, but I feel like I'm going to drown with you. Like I feel like you're pulling my raft down with your weight."
Sure.
And I felt really guilty about that, but I understood, well, I was in a depression. Of course I couldn't be helping people out. And so now I've figured out a little more what my boundaries are and what I'm able to do. And I do it within that framework, and people are really respectful because I want to help. I just know I'm not a trained counselor, and I can't,
So you must get, especially at least in my experience too, when you open up about yourself, it invites people to open up about themselves too and to share their stories with you. You must get that as well.
I do get it, but I love that people have been so respectful about it. Like people will email and say, I saw your talk, and is it okay if I share my story with you? And I feel very safe online. I always, in that scenario, I always say absolutely. And just so you know, I'm not a psychologist.
Right.
I'm not able to help you, but I can certainly tell you that you're not alone, and let you know I believe your story and that kind of thing. I mean, when I was depressed, feeling believed that I had this invisible illness, that was very big for me.
Sure.
Because I felt like there was quite a lot of eye rolling and like, "Oh, when are you going to get off the sofa?" type of thing. So
And I find, in my experience, 90% of the time, that's all people want. They don't want somebody to tell them what medication they should be on or what, therapy they should. They just want somebody who's a warm body and willing to listen. Right?
Absolutely. And to me, that's, I had to let my husband know because he's such a fixer. It was great. A lot of times I'd have my psychiatrist just write him letters directly. And she'd put it on her little prescription pad and she'd be like, "Jessica needs a dog. Jessica needs to go for a holiday."
Did you ask her for a prescription for a dog?
She actually did. She actually wrote,
That's amazing.
And she said, "Get a sad dog that's going to make you get off the sofa." And I did. But now my dog and I are best buddies and awesome. Jog every day. But yeah, absolutely. I feel like validation is a key thing. And I know you are incredibly well-versed and well-trained in the mental health field. I just have my experience and the reading I've done to go on. And so I can't get on stage and give people the kind of healing or advice that will be a fix-it for some of their situations. But what I can do is share my experience and tell people, you are absolutely not alone. Please don't judge those who are in this situation. And here's a couple of impressions to send you off on a happy note. Yeah,
and I've actually, in my own work as well, have moved more and more in that direction. I mean, that's where I started was in sharing my story. But then, the more I do it and the more successful you get at it, you realize that's what people want. They just want to hear personal stories that they can relate to. They don't want somebody to go up there and beat them over the head with a bunch of statistics and diagnostic criteria. That doesn't mean anything to people unless you can relate to them in a human way.
Yeah, well, and my main message is just, I believe you. I'm so sorry you're going through what you're going through. Because to me, that was the sweetest thing to hear when I was in my deep pain, was for someone to say, "Oh, I'm really sorry. That must be hard." Because I'd be like, "It is."
Yes.
Thank you so much for not just asking why I can't, get up and be grateful.
I would feel so much better if somebody said to me, "You know what? This sucks. It's going to suck. It's supposed to suck. This is going to be terrible. But let's let it be terrible together." That would be far more comforting for me than somebody trying to fix it.
I think too, that's doubly true, because when someone is in a depression or is suffering from anxiety, the first thing to go is your perspective.
Yes.
The first thing that flies out of your mind is the knowledge that other people must be going through something similar. Yeah. And the truth is 1 in 5 are. Yeah. But it just never occurred to me to seek validation elsewhere or to seek someone else going through the same kind of experience that I was.
Even just to sit in the same room and not talk about something that you both know you've been through.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sounds weird, but it's true. That even that can be healing to realize that you've both been there and you don't have to talk about it.
Yeah. And my best moment was just saying to my mom, I've been diagnosed as depressed again. Can you just come for the weekend and we'll just watch TV? But don't talk.
Yeah. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me.
Don't you dare make a single suggestion. Because that was my pet peeve was I would, 3 milliseconds after you mention your diagnosis, the advice comes.
Have you tried?
Have you tried? And it's always things where it's like, of course I understand there's a forest a kilometer away and I should go walk through the forest and that would help everything. But you know what? I'm not going to because I'm covered in invisible cement right now and I just can't. So thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like for me, the type of feelings I had were the more suggestions I got, the more I just felt like it was just a reminder that there looked like there were simple solutions out there and I just couldn't get off my lazy arse and take advantage of them. So it's kind of added the guilt that I already had put on myself.
How much pressure or encouragement do you think, if any, do people need? Because if we don't give any encouragement at all, then recovery isn't necessarily always about just falling deeper and deeper into the whirlpool, right?
Of course.
I think you need a little bit of pressure.
I do. I just think it depends who that pressure comes from. And I'm the kind of personality where I feel like if I just have a little breathing room and if I feel like everybody's got my back, I will be the one to make the first step and to get myself going. Yeah. That's my personality. But I know half the world out there would be the opposite and would say like, I need people to tell me I can do this. I need people to tell me. Yes. Yeah. So that part I haven't, if you have any insight on that.
Not really. I mean, I tend to be with you too, that for me to reach out, I need to feel safe to do so. And I've actually, because I'm kind of an avoidant type person, when people reach out to me, I'm going to shut down.
Absolutely.
This is my space. This is my stuff. Who are you? Get away from me.
I know. I've had periods
stranger
of
danger.
time. Yes, stranger danger. And I've had periods of time where actually in my depression where I felt extremely lonely, but then someone would reach out and be like, hey, I feel like your posts lately seem a little down. Do you want to come get coffee? And I'd be like, well, what is wrong with that person? That they are just reaching out to a stranger for friendship. Forget it. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So that I zip up the the bubble of insulation and be alone again, which isn't, of course, it isn't healthy. So I'm not sure what mix. I just know if a friend of mine called and said, you can't just sit around all day, that would be like, I'd be like, oh, you just made it worse.
Yeah. Well, and I think maybe it's even just a balance within individual people and having people who know you and trust you and love you enough to know when is the right time to make that encouragement, right? If you're very clearly not in a place where you need to be encouraged to just get out of the house and go for a walk, then maybe just we're going to shut up today and let you eat your chocolate or whatever works for you, right?
Yeah,
meeting people where they are.
Yeah, my husband was awesome. He would quietly just walk into the room, gather up the many dishes I had accumulated under the sofa,
under the sofa,
quietly bring them up to the kitchen and give them a rinse. And he'd be like, tough day, huh? And I'd be like, yeah, it's really tough because I went to the computer and checked email for 10 minutes and now I'm just really tired. So he didn't understand it, but he certainly very quickly got to know that I just needed support. And then when I was ready to make the first step, I went and saw my psychiatrist, and I guess I felt very safe with her telling me what to do. And I truly was like, just tell me, just literally write out instructions. I'll do them and I'll get better. I promise. With her. And I guess because there was no ego involved, I knew it wouldn't be coming from a judgmental place.
Yeah. So how did you know that? What did that psychiatrist do? It sounds like you've developed a really great relationship with her. What was it about her? What did she do that helped you to trust her?
She drew a lot of diagrams.
Okay. Did you get the one with the neurons and the serotonin balls going in between? Yeah.
See, and that's what I feel like if you help me understand it on an intellectual level, then I will understand. So things like... Yeah. She would say, have you been ruminating? And I would say, what's ruminating? And she would explain to me that it's when you have one negative thought, and instead of having the thought and letting it go, you start replaying that memory or that thought, and then you start fantasizing about it getting worse and worse and worse. And I said, oh, that's my hobby.
Right.
That's what I do with everything, and I do it at 3 a.m. and it keeps me up for hours. And I was like, so anyway, when she explained it and she drew a little diagram of the tornado in my mind, and then I felt like, okay, I've given it a name. I know what that is. Now I catch myself. The second that I start that weird, honestly, it's like a masochistic fantasy of what's the worst it could possibly get.
And sometimes you don't really, or eventually I think you get to a point where you're in your recovery where you can see what you're doing as it's happening. I tell people sometimes I've gotten very good at being depressed. Like, I'm like an expert at being depressed, not at depression.
Yeah.
But at some point, when you catch yourself and you can see where you are in it and you realize, how did I get there? How did I get from that person didn't answer their phone down to everybody's going to leave me and I'm going to die poor and lonely? Like,
yes, and
like,
I
holy crap,
realized
that escalated.
That's how my mind processes thoughts, and it's really weird, and it's like my mind is working against me, but that is just what my hobby seems to be.
Right.
And so I catch myself now, and then I move on to channeling those thoughts in a positive way. So, for example, I try and listen to at least 20 minutes of a book on tape every day, just to give myself a bit of new knowledge, because focusing on that new knowledge will stop me from my mind kind of going to the usual panicky place.
Right.
So I love filling new knowledge. That's something that works for me. And so the psychiatrist she was very goal oriented. And she could tell I really didn't enjoy the sessions. I'd get a little squirrely.
Oh, yeah.
If it was the session where it was just like, do you remember another time in your life where you felt sad in that way? I would just be like, oh, no, time is money. Let's focus forward. And so we did do the sort of the backstory work.
Right.
But then I felt so great that I knew when I was going to see her that without judgment, we were going to focus on some new task for me for the next week, or some new understanding for me for the next week. And so I loved her in that regard, and felt like she was very forward moving.
Did you guys work on medication as well, or psychotherapy only?
We did medication as well. And I remember thinking, well, I don't think the medication is helping. It helped very much in my postpartum depression, and I could feel it right away helping in my postpartum depression. But with this depression, I couldn't tell that it was making a difference necessarily. But I just know one day, because I was doing all these other things at the same time. I had my dog, and I was like trying to learn to be a jogger with her, and starting journaling and trying to reach out more and exercising more, all of those different things. And then about 6 months after I'd started all of that, including the medication, I got caught in the reef one day with waves crashing me up into these rocks. And I was flailing, and it was kind of the type of thing that would be super embarrassing for me. And I was used to blowing my gasket a lot. Like, I would say anger was my go-to place in my depression. And I came out of the water, and my husband was almost like, he had like a defensive stance, like as though I was like coiling up to, I don't know, deck him or something. And I said, honey, what's going on? And he said, well, I saw you out there. You must be really upset, and I understand. And he was trying to say all the right things. I was like, oh, honey, no, it's fine. I'm here, right? And he was like, your reaction is weird. And I said, it is weird. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is what it's like to have a normal human reaction to circumstances. Whereas for me, anytime something tiny would happen, like if I would stub my toe or lose my car keys or something, the reaction would...
The worst.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was huge, to the point where my kids made a scream chart where they on the fridge they drew it, and I got a little tick beside my name anytime I would lose my temper, because they could tell I felt so terrible when I did, and they were kind of trying to help me through it.
Right. But it's like you're kind of a live wire too, and anything can set off that domino reaction, right? Yeah. Yeah, and with depression, my sleep was so bad that I guess day to day, if I had 3 hours sleep the night before, my anger would be like really on edge. And I tried to be super protective of my kids and just sort of keep my distance on those days. And
it was never directed toward them, but they certainly, I mean, we're all in the same house. They could certainly be aware of my energy.
Kids can be assholes sometimes. I've got to. No, but especially if you're in that really raw, vulnerable place, you just don't want everybody pulling on you in every direction at every time of the day. So, how did you manage that, being a mom, especially, a relatively new mom at the time with the postpartum piece? How did you manage being a mom and having depression?
What I would say is I managed that part of my life better than expected.
Okay.
But everything else gone. Like there was zero self-care. There was zero health. Like I would spend an hour making the world's healthiest soup for them, and then I would eat 6 Twinkies and a bag of popcorn. And I paid no attention to, didn't give time to the rest of my family, didn't give time to friends, almost cut them off completely. So it was like I knew the kids were so sacred that I thought, okay, can I use any rationale I have left and give them okayness and then just take it out on every other area of my life. So I'm shocked that I'm still married. It's confusing to me. Sure. I don't understand. I guess maybe he's either a martyr or just the kindest person in the world. But he said, I didn't understand what you were going through, but he's like, I knew who you used to be, and I always had hope you'd be that person again. And
that's
so
beautiful.
I'm certainly making up for lost time. Holy cow. A lot of sex in our house.
Well, so it paid off for him too then. It all worked out.
Be depressed anytime, honey.
Yeah. So now, how long would you say that you've been in recovery or feeling good, or do you still, actually, let's start here. Do you still identify as having depression?
So what I was told was that if you've had depression more than once, even when you're not depressed, you're in remission.
Sure.
So I would say I'm in remission for 4 years. I have had days or periods where I can feel depression around the corner. And I fight so hard and I swim upstream as much as I can to not go down that path again. I think when I was depressed, it was very, very hard to swim against the current like that. And I just let the current carry me deeper and deeper. But because I'm not depressed right now, when I can see it coming, I feel like I have the power to really outrun that cloud. Or to just barely outrun it, I guess. But
sure.
So yeah, I would say there are months in the line of work that I do that are harder than others. Like January and August are always a little harder for me because it's the end of holidays, but work hasn't quite started up yet. Right. So I feel like I'm a bit purposeless. But now, because it's 4 years later, I have strategies. I'm like, I'm writing a book starting that particular day, or I'm going to come out and do a lot more podcasts, or I'm going to take a friend to lunch every single day for that month or something. Like I try and find strategies around it. But I really do mean that I have a checklist every day that I do, because I understand that I'm just a person who seems to be very susceptible to depression. And so I'm living in a way that, rain or shine, actually I was mentioning before we started that like my dog doesn't care whether it's rainy or not. No. She has to go out. She has to be exercised or else her muscles are going to get flabby. So I put on my rain poncho and my runners and I'll go do a 5K in the pouring rain, in the mud. And it makes me feel so happy and grateful because I do it knowing I'm working on myself. I'm doing this for myself.
That's a really beautiful metaphor, I think, for recovery, too, that it doesn't matter if it's raining. Get out there and run, exercise, whatever. Get through the mud.
Yeah. So whatever I can do to sort of trick myself. And I even said to my husband, he used to say, well, I want to make life easier for you. So I'm going to take care of the dishes and I'm going to take care of this. And I said to him, I don't want us hiring anyone anymore, and I don't want you taking care of those things anymore, because I said then I have no responsibility left. I think I need responsibility. I need to feel like I'm helping out. I need the self-esteem that comes from completing little menial tasks like that.
Yeah.
So I get that it almost sounds like I'm like a kindergarten kid being retrained for how to live, but
no, but it's true. And I think that, when I was a teenager, I was in and out of psych hospitals a lot for treatment. And one of the first things they do there is take away all of your responsibility, all of your rights, all of your, sometimes even if they're medicating you or strapping you down or whatever, putting you in a secluded room, taking your shoelaces, whatever it is that they do. But it's all about taking away your agency. And that's the exact opposite, I think, of what we need to be doing, right? We need to be able to help people find purpose and meaning and or even just something to do.
Yes, and even if it's the tiniest, most ridiculous task that you would never think, why am I grateful to load the dishwasher? But every time I do it, I go, oh, my mental health is going to love this. When the final dish goes in and I pour the liquid and hit go. Yeah. So those kind of things are like even making the bed. So I tell myself all the time, doing this for my mental health. And I guess I love myself more. I feel like I'm worth it. And I feel like there is a rhyme and reason to getting healthy. So I'm committed to those things. But I want to know, so how early did your issues with mental health begin?
Probably, I first started thinking about suicide when I was about 10. I had my first attempt when I was 12. Had about 7 hospitalizations throughout my teenage years. And
can you pinpoint anything that sort of triggered those feelings for you?
Well, I mean, there's certainly a lot of stuff in my life. We grew up poor. My parents had split up. I was being bullied and abused both in school and at home. So I think for me, it was definitely a lot of social determinants around me. I didn't feel safe anywhere. And when you don't feel safe, you're going to react in ways to protect yourself, I think. For me, I think it was many years of attempts to escape or attempts to get my needs met to escape what I was feeling. And they kept getting worse and worse because I wasn't getting my needs met and I wasn't getting the help that I needed. So, I would didn't know what to call all this stuff I was feeling inside, but knew that I didn't want to feel it. That's 2 important things. Nobody had taught me what to call this stuff inside me, the sadness, what anger, anxiety, whatever, because we didn't talk like that at the time. And also nobody gave me the strategies for actually how to manage it, how to work through it. So, I think it was a compounding effect over many years. And by the end, I felt like if all these doctors and psychiatrists and teachers and social workers can't help me, maybe it means I'm not helpable. Maybe it means I'm broken and irreparable. And that wasn't true. It was only when I started to realize that sharing your story is something you can do, that's useful to people, that gives you purpose in society. And that's really when things started to turn around for me, when I realized that I wasn't pointless.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Me too.
Do you know what brings me comfort? And I hope it brings you comfort as well. So my kids are now 10 and 12, and both of them have had mental health projects to do at school. So they have learned terms like depression and anxiety, and they're comfortable speaking those words. Also because I have explained to them in like an appropriate way that their age can understand. But I'm grateful that they understand that it's an actual illness, that I'm grateful that they have a bit of a vocabulary around it. And my son went through something a few weeks ago at school where the vice principal had really terrified him. And he's a great kid. He's won the pink shirt for anti-bullying and stuff. So he's a good kid, but ended up really having someone come down on him hard. And it made him feel so guilty. And he came home and said, "Mom, is this what you felt like when you were depressed? Because I can't imagine even having this feeling any longer." And I just explained matter-of-factly, well, honey, you have these feelings because something bad happened. If you had these feelings when nothing bad had happened, then that might be depression. And I said, if you don't start feeling better in a day or 2 from this thing, that might be depression. But don't you worry. You just have sadness because something very sad has happened to you. And so let me just love you through it. What would you like to do? Should we sit together and watch a show? Should we cuddle? So he slept in bed with me for a couple days, and we ate a bit of junk food, and we took care of it that way. But I'm really grateful that society as a whole seems to just put a little more emphasis and a little more vocabulary out there, that it's part of a school curriculum, amazes me and makes me grateful, because if a fifth of the population was going to go through cancer, which they do eventually could happen, there's education out there. There's constantly commercials about it and stuff. And finally, mental health issues are catching up with that, where there are commercials for various charities. There is talk of it in the classroom about mental health and speakers who come in. So I'm very hopeful for the future, and I'm excited to see what kind of difference that makes 20 years down the line when they're adults, how they know how to cope a little better, hopefully.
Yeah. When I first found out that I was going to be a dad for the first time, my first reaction wasn't, this sounds terrible, but it wasn't excitement. It was happiness, sure. It wasn't excitement. It was fear that...
Are they going to have what you had? Yeah.
Are they going to turn out like me? And how can I protect them? How can I stop that from happening? And then after he was born, I realized... I actually kind of hope he does, because I turned out all right. And I had never thought about that before. And it was like, I'm better prepared now for if someday he ever comes to me and says, Dad, I'm really struggling. And, he'll have that language and I never did. So the reason I bring that up, I guess I'm wondering is there anything that you're grateful about the difficult times you've been through for? Has it given you anything?
The only thing that I would say I'm grateful for is the empathy I have for other people.
Right.
So even things like in traffic, some jerk cuts me off. And instead of me feeling anger, I think, is that guy's wife in the hospital?
Right.
Does that guy have erectile dysfunction and is super embarrassed, is struggling? Who is struggling quietly beneath the surface? Right. And probably so many of us are. Yeah. So I have that kind of empathy. And it also took away my ego in terms of posting things online. Here's an example. Yesterday was International Day of Happiness. And I always feel like a dork when, you're on Instagram and you're posting a quick little video of you talking to the camera. I just feel like a dork. It's weird. I can be a public speaker, great, but for some reason posting online feels awful. But I make myself do it because my heart says, what if somebody's out there? Yeah. So then I go and I tell my story, and I feel like a bit of a dolt doing it. But inevitably, there always is somebody out there who will send a little message back and say, oh, thanks, I just moved to a new town and I was feeling lonely, and you posting about having felt lonely. I said about how in 2000, my New Year's resolution was have more friends because I was lonely.
Sure.
And that's something that's not normally something I'd like to announce to the world. But again, I set my ego aside and just thought, if this brings anyone a little sense that they're not alone, that would be terrific.
Yeah. Well, so what do you got coming up next? You got your book out.
My book is being released in the States in April, and it's called Depression the Comedy. And I went with that title. You were talking before about how your talk was a tough sell. My book was a tough sell because people were saying, books about mental health should go deeper. They should be more personal. It should be a literary gem. It should be. And I was like, well, but see, there's people out there, and I know this because I speak to them all the time from stage, who kind of just want a safe little entryway into talking about mental health. They don't want to be triggered further. They are just trying to, sometimes it's for themselves, or sometimes it's just, most of the people who come up to me after a show to talk are people whose spouse or family member or child are going through mental health issues. And so I felt like this is a safe little book that you can give them. It's mostly jokey at my expense, never at the expense of mental health. But it shares my journey and then a couple of things that worked for me. And no one got hurt in the reading of this book kind of thing. And so I'm happy to put it out there, but it is, again, one of those projects where I knew, okay, this might not be a commercial success. This might even be viewed as a really elementary, embarrassing book for a publisher to touch. But I know in my heart that there are people who just want to wade out in the shallows a little bit and get to know a subject that way. And I stuck to my guns and I did it. And maybe it's not for everyone, but it's definitely for those who want to learn a little about mental health and don't mind the odd fart joke. Yeah. That's me.
So what would you say for somebody who hasn't yet picked up the book but is imminently about to do so? What would you say to that person who's struggling and is just starting to wade into learning more about what they're going through?
I would say that knowing you're not alone will go a long way. Knowing someone else has been there where you are at is helpful. But I would also say, please give yourself a giant pat on the back for whatever tiny step you're taking, even if it's walking up one flight of stairs to get yourself a piece of celery, even if it's picking up the phone to make a phone call you really don't want to make. Like, please honor yourself, because it is as though you have an invisible elephant on you, and the rest of the world might not see your efforts as the grand thing that they are. But I know, and you know, what a big deal it is to take that tiny first step. So please know that you're doing great in whatever little phase of the journey you're at.
Jessica Holmes, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Mark. That was awesome.
All right, that's it. That's my conversation with Jessica Holmes. She's so much fun. She's just got such a nice personality. She is so open about her experiences, and I feel really grateful that she came in to talk. If you enjoyed the conversation that we had today, please share it on all of your social media platforms. I'll be sharing it on my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Mark Hennick, at MarkHenick. You can also go to markhennick.com/so-called-normal for past episodes. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher and everywhere else, Libsyn. So wherever you listen, go on there, subscribe to the show, like us, leave us a really nice, beautiful, kind rating with like lots of heart emojis and stuff like that, and share it with your friends. And if you have any other ideas for more guests, please let me know. Get in touch. Share what you think about the show. If you want to try out some free psychotherapy, a free trial of online, safe, effective, credentialed psychotherapy, head on over to betterhelp.com/Mark. That's betterhelp.com/MARK. Enter the promo code Mark, and you can get a couple of weeks of free trial of psychotherapy. Check it out. See if you like it. That's all for me. This has been So-Called Normal, and I'm Mark Hennick.